Okay, welcome everybody. Tony Elliot here, one of the, I think 60 plus coaches now a part of the fantastic learning platform, the United Goalkeeping Alliance. One of the founding members, I guess, myself, along with Eric Eisenhut, who obviously was heavily involved in the building of the UGKA, as we now call it. It gives me great pleasure to join you today to do the first of what we hope will be many one-to-one interviews between fellow coaches from the UGKA. And it gives me great pleasure to host the first one-to-one interview with a fantastic former goalkeeper, US goalkeeper, obviously played in the EPL for a number of different clubs and is now plying his trade as a goalkeeper coach in the US, Mr. Ian Feuer. So Ian, welcome, and great to have you with us today.
It's great to be here, buddy. I appreciate the interview.
No problem. Obviously, Ian, when I spoke to Eric about doing this kind of thing for the benefit of our members, coaches, you know, the goalkeepers that get the regular work with us, and obviously, you know, are now subscribers and members of the UGKA, we felt there was nobody better probably than your good self to do the first interview with. So thank you very much for joining us, and we do appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. Ian, just give us a little bit of you know, a bit of an overview of what you're currently doing now in the coaching world.
Yeah, since retiring in 2003, I started my goalkeeping academy, Premier Goalkeeping Academy, and just coaching young kids from age 8 to pro. I also had a spell with both the women and men's national team. And I was with the LA Galaxy for about, I think it was about 9 seasons, okay. As well as various universities, USC, Pepperdine University, and that. So it's been a interesting ride, yeah. So
good, a nice journey for you, and
yeah,
a great learning journey. What are you doing currently? Where are you playing the trade? Where are you doing your work?
Well, at the moment, I'm just doing mostly my academy stuff, as well as USC. Because most of the things shut down due to the virus and that. So yeah, just hanging on and doing that for the moment. And I'd like to get back into the professional scene at some point. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And again, you know, it's fantastic that we now have you involved in the United Goalkeeping Alliance, where, you know, we can use and utilize your skills as a coach and your experiences to help, you know, the many goalkeepers and coaches that are now part of that alliance, and you know, they can learn from your fantastic knowledge and experience. So thank you for being part of that, you know, that situation and this platform. So that's brilliant. So I guess we can get into our interview. So I'm really looking forward to this. Obviously, you and I have had conversations around how this is going to look, and I think what we wanted to do was sort of paint a real clear picture of your journey, not just as a coach but as a player, from you know, as a young goalkeeper, your journey into the professional game, and obviously the levels that you've played at and the experiences that you've had, and then obviously now that transition into coaching. But I think the main reason why we wanted to do these one-to-ones is really just to get a feel for what you've learned throughout the years, and what knowledge you've taken on board, and what learnings you've had, not just football learnings but life learnings. And that's really where we want to go with these conversations. So hopefully for everybody that sees this and hears this, we can give that a great overview of your journey from player to coach. So that's fantastic. And again, you know, I'll be pitching the questions towards you, but if there's anything I miss or anything you feel is important for anybody listening, then please do feel free to drop that in as well. So I guess we might as well start from the beginning, you know, you as a young footballer or soccer player, as it's known in the US, and what I think, you know, when we've sort of talked about this beginning, I wanted to really find out why you became a goalkeeper and what were your inspirations in terms of wanting to be a goalkeeper. Can you just enlighten us on that?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing soccer age 7, and I started on the pitch, and I think they put me at left back because I had somewhat of a left foot, but I didn't really feel it. You know, I wasn't that great, and all of a sudden I decided I hated to run. Yeah. So I was like, put me in goal, and I immediately fell in love with goalkeeping. I love the physicality of it.
Yeah.
You know, I love getting kicked and getting up and just showing them that didn't hurt or anything like that. So I went in goal and immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And it's just such a, as we all know, it's at times you're all alone, you know, mentally, and, you know, you feel all alone. And I kind of thrive on that challenge sometimes to take that on and conquer it. So it's such a difficult position. So it's just a challenge, you know, and I immediately fell in love with it.
Some say that, you know, goalkeepers are different. We're a different breed, different animal. Did you feel that at a young age? Did you feel that you said you played a little bit of outfield at left back? And I don't know, how long did you have an experience of playing out? Was it long? Was it short lived?
It was about a season of AYSO, and then I went in goal. So yeah, it was short lived, but like I said, once I got in goal, I fell in love with it, and just it's such a challenging position. And I feel you need to be the leader of the team, and there's so many aspects to it that make it for me the most difficult position and the most important position. And that's not taken away from other players. It's just, it is what it is. We know games can turn on a goalkeeper's save or a goalkeeper's mistake.
And did anybody influence that transition from outfield to goalkeeping, or was that just you in your mind wanted to do it?
I can't really remember if my coach forced me to go in, but I think I wanted to go in. I mean, it was at age 8. I think I was age 8 at the time when I went in goal. So my coach probably saw, you know, kid's a big kid. Let's put him in there. Let's try it out. And it's funny because my dad just sent me a video of me playing when I was age 8 in goal. And man, I did not have any technique. It was kind of funny. It's on my actual highlight reel. I just uploaded a highlight reel to my my YouTube page, and it starts out with the video of me playing back then. You should check it out because it's pretty laughable. But I got pretty far, so I did okay.
I will definitely have a look at, and I'm guessing those that see this will probably jump onto that, mate. So you might get a few hits with that now.
It's pretty fun.
That'd be interesting to see. So, you know, as I say, you know, really it was about you and that willingness to want to do that. I guess a lot of youngsters face that at times, you know, that sometimes they might be forced to be the goalkeeper. Do you feel that's a good thing, or would you suggest that's a negative thing? Is it something that somebody has to want to do?
For me, it is. I coach so many kids of all levels and all ages, and I can tell right away if a kid wants it or not. And if they don't, it doesn't mean you give up on them. You give it, you know, you try to guide them into that, you know, where they do learn to love it. So you give them a good chance. But I mean, it is such a pressure position. I mean, you're talking, if you think about it, you got kids age 10 years old. They go on Saturday, they play a game, and they let in a goal. And maybe it's a soft one. The first thing those kids do is they look up at their parents. And sometimes you see, you know, a parent going, you know, and they don't even think their kid's watching, but trust me, your kid's watching. And then that kid has to see the whole sideline, you know, kind of turning their heads, blah, blah, blah. The other side's cheering. And then the ball goes to the halfway line and everything stops. And that's, I mean, that's for a 10-year-old, that's a lot.
So I guess socially and psychologically, that can have a massive effect on that young goalkeeper, can't it? Have you got any sort of advice, golden nuggets for parents, coaches, if they are working with very young goalkeepers, you know, along those lines where the pressure is so much that if they react in a certain way, that can really affect that individual, not just in that moment, but for the rest of their football life? Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Any thoughts on that? Any advice that you may
as parents, just go and enjoy the darn game.
Right.
It's not the be all and end all. I mean, I see these parents and it's like a U10, you know, all-star game, AYSO, and they're freaking out. And they're worried, like, you know, I'll have a parent sometimes, you know, talk to me like, you know, oh, can we work on this? Because they let in this goal. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to let that goal in. I mean, yeah, we'll work on it, but I mean, it's going to happen. It's a product of that position, of any position. And, you know, for parents, my advice is go and enjoy the game. Let your kid have that as their thing. Don't make it your thing. You know, everything else is your thing. You know, take the trash out, do your room, do your homework, get to school on time. Yeah, you got to, okay. But make football theirs. You know, so
are you suggesting that football becomes their freedom, their solace to go and express themselves, to enjoy themselves? Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah.
Yes, and that's why kids, especially boys around 13 to 14, they quit football.
Yeah.
And they go skateboard. Because you know why? Skateboarding, you don't have a parent on your shoulder, over your back, or a coach. You just go out and do it, and you're free.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to make it a similar environment.
Of course.
And if you make it a dictatorship,
yeah,
then the kid at 13, when they get some testosterone, they quit, and you wonder why they quit. You know?
Well, of course, over here in the UK where I'm based, and obviously you're in the US, but obviously here we have the Premier League, and the money that's involved in football now around those levels, it can be sort of a holy grail for parents to try and get their kids into those levels of the game, because they know that the money that's going to be coming in the direction of that individual, should they make the grade, is huge. And it can not just affect the young individual in terms of financial reward, it can affect the whole family institution for the rest of their life. So I guess sometimes that's where that push, that pressure comes from, because they want so much. And I guess if you want to call it a gravy train, that's where they try and push the kids. But I think the biggest issue then is that the percentages of kids that actually get an opportunity to go and attempt to do that, to actually make it, is absolutely tiny. So what happens then to those kids that have been built up to then not have that opportunity? Where do they go from there? And I suppose that's probably the toughest thing to deal with for that kid, isn't it?
It's huge. And it's basically, as a parent, you have to do exactly the opposite of what you think is right. And what it is your first goal is to keep the love for the sport.
Yeah.
I don't care how good. If you keep the love for the sport, the chips will fall where they fall. The kid will have the best chance of actually making it to that gravy train that we talk about. But if you overdo it and they lose the love, it's gone.
Yeah.
And they just won't put the extra effort.
Yeah. Did your parents push you, or was it you? Did you go and just live the dream?
My parents still don't know what offside is.
Right.
That's how involved they were. It was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
They every game, it was basically all they cared about is I gave everything I had, and I did. So every game they were like, "Great job, son. And what do you want to go eat?" And I'd be like, "Let's go get a burger at McDonald's or something." Like that was my most exciting. Like, so for me, never any pressure, never anything. All they cared about was, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it as hard as you can, and you're going to commit to it. And that's it.
The best you can in every moment, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. And that's, one of the things that I cherish to this day, that allowed me to do what I did.
Yeah. Fantastic. Again, that's the way my parents were. Yes, they helped me, guided me, always there for me in terms of support, but never got overly involved in my path, my journey. If I needed support, they were there. My dad played a little bit as a goalkeeper, but he gave me a little bits of advice. But once I started getting a high level of coaching, he kind of left it to the experts then, which was good for me. Because I never really had that worry of, if something didn't go so right, looking at mum or dad for clearance, for the license for that to be okay. There was trust in my coaches. And I think that's important, that, if parents are entrusting their kids to experts, coaches, then let them get on with it. Let the coaches do the job, what they're paid for, or what they're there to do, or they have the qualifications to deliver those messages to the kids. Let them get on with it. Would you agree?
100%. You got to find the quality coaches, and and just like you said, you either trust them or you don't. And if you don't trust them, you move on and you find a different coach. And it's up to us as coaches to educate ourselves so we can teach these kids the best that we can. And so many times I see these coaches, they're the head coach is yelling at their goalkeeper after a mistake. Yeah. And I walk up sometimes to the coach, and these are buddies of mine. Yeah. And I'll go, or a coach will call me and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this keeper's struggling with, crosses under pressure." Yeah. And I look at him, I go, "You ever worked on it?" Yes. And this big, question mark bubble goes above their head. Like, wait, I'm supposed to work on that? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of laughable at times. So do you think then, we've specialised in the role of the goalkeeper in terms of coaching, but we've also had to go down the path of getting our outfield qualifications to understand better the game. Do you feel that coaches that are what I would class as like head coaches, assistant coaches, that work with the outfield players,
do you think it would benefit them to at least do some kind of fundamental qualification or course around the role of the goalkeeper, just to better their knowledge, even if just the fundamentals, to know what their goalkeepers actually have to deal with and go through on a game-by-game basis? Do you feel that would help?
100%. I mean, I used to be one of the instructors for the U.S. Soccer National Goalkeeping License. It was the proper week-long with a couple other coaches. And we would have, 100 coaches come out, and the majority of them were head coaches, D1 head coaches, all this. Every single time we did this, and I did it about 5-6 years, every coach left there and told us this was the most educational, amazing thing. They just learned so much, and they felt so empowered, because coaches are so afraid of this position because they haven't played it, that they just kind of turn a blind eye to it. The problem I have is, imagine being a gridiron football, American football head coach. And every training session, you get your quarterback and you tell your quarterback, all right, go over there with the quarterback coach and do your thing. And you never got the quarterback involved with your defensive line. You would be fired right away. So it's important that coaches understand how to get their keeper involved in training. And I actually do my own personal ones where I go to a club. We get all the coaches from the clubs, 50, 60 coaches. And I just educate them on how to get their keeper involved in training and how to design a session on whatever, thing you think your goalkeeper's lacking, because most of the mistakes are made from a lack of understanding between the back line goalkeeper, when they come out, when to not come out, what to do on a corner kick, what to do on a cross, all those things. And that's a team thing. That's not necessarily a goalkeeper coach thing, because most of the time with the goalkeeper coach, it's us with the goalkeeper. So we can't reenact 4 defenders, 3 forwards running in, those things. So that has to be done with the team. And unfortunately, we don't do enough of that. And it's kind of, every time I do these sessions with the clubs, they just go away and they're just, again, so empowered. And they're like, wow, that's actually easier than I thought. And I always tell them, don't worry about technique. Like, oh, here's how you catch. And here, let's save that for the keeper coach. But in terms of the tactical stuff, that's what you need to work on. So, where the keeper,
you're suggesting then that the integration of the goalkeeper now should be more frequent in with the group 100%. To actually get those tactical awarenesses, that understanding, that link with the rest of the team, to think about, recognizing the strategies that the team might be playing, the communication elements, and so on and so forth. I think, like you're right. I think far too often we've kind of isolated the goalkeepers. And I tend to think along the same way now, that the integration of the goalkeeper into the group is vitally important, as often as you possibly can. Yes, there'll be times when you need that isolation work.
100%.
But I also think that there has to be a link for us to know what the goalkeepers are going to be going into, because then we can link what we do in that isolated session to what they're going to go into in the full practice, if that makes sense. 100%. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, take for example, ball. Your defensive line is top of the center circle. Ball gets played over the back line. Do you come outside the box, clear it with your feet? Do you drop in? Happens once a game, once every other game. Never gets worked on.
No.
And I saw a keeper just get absolutely ridiculed and actually subbed out over that topic. That's one of the hardest things to do as a goalkeeper, because you're sitting there going, if I don't get this, it's a red card, it's a penalty kick, it's a goal. So the pressure is there. Never gets worked on. But it's so easy to work on.
And I guess in isolation, if it's just you and the goalkeeper, that's the difficulty, where you haven't got that actual live game situation.
100%.
Goalkeeper can't work on support, the ball's not moving as it would in a game. So that integration into practice with the group is vital in those type of development practices, isn't it?
Exactly. But let's do this. Let's just get 2 rows of forwards, tap, touch, shot, tap, touch, shot, tap, touch. That's working the goalkeeper. No, it's not.
No.
You know what I mean? That's just, and they do it so quick. All they can say is get quicker, quick, get up quicker, harder, harder. I'm like, you're actually hurting your goalkeeper doing that.
So for any outfield coaches, as we might call them, that are tuning in, looking, watching, your advice would be at least go and get some kind of fundamental goalkeeping learning and upskill yourself just to understand the role a little bit better. Would you advise that?
Yeah, and you know what? Find someone, ask them. Call me, call you, call Eric. You know, there's coaches out there, and you can say, you know what? My goalkeeper's struggling with ball over the back line. There's a high line, ball over the back line. What do they do? And I'll give you a session.
Yeah.
Over the phone, I'll give you a session, and you'll go, wow, okay. And you do it once every third session for 10, 15 minutes. That's all you have to do.
Well, I guess, and I imagine, you know, now we've got whether this be a plug or not, the United Goalkeeping Alliance. Look how many coaches we've got that actually know how to help you with this. So we've got over 60 coaches, I think, now. So imagine the knowledge that's there for anybody that becomes a subscriber and member, how much we can help those individuals. And you're right, they can reach out to us. We're there for them. And I mean, that's key for us to understand.
With all the coaches in the United Goalkeeping Alliance, between all of us, man, that's pretty powerful. Yeah. That's pretty powerful. So there's a lot of knowledge in this group. Yeah. And if someone just reaches out, they're going to find answers to anything. I promise you about that. And we are sharers and carers, so we will offer that advice. So we've gone off on a different tangent here, which we knew we would. But just going back to that early period. So you obviously you were a goalkeeper. You went in goal. Did you have any sort of heroes, role models at that time? And also, you mentioned about going in goal. Was there any kind of specific goalkeeper coaching that you got in those early years, or was it just from playing the game that you learned the skills moving forward? Well, in terms of heroes, when I grew up in Las Vegas, we had one game a week. It was called Soccer Made in Germany. And the presenter was an English guy named Toby Charles. And I can still hear his voice. Yeah. So what would happen is I would record the game on VHS. Yeah. For those youngins back there, that's called a videotape. And I would watch that game every single day. Right. Until the following Sunday, and then I'd record the following Soccer Made in Germany. So basically, all I got was the German Bundesliga. Yeah. So at that time, Tony Schumacher was kind of the big chief, you know. Yeah. Cool. So I kind of watched him. I studied him, and I loved just the way he was aggressive. He never stopped moving. Like the ball would be at the opposite side of the pitch, and I saw him, you know, top of the box, about 3-4 yards outside the box, which was unheard of back then. Yeah. And he was in touch with his line. He was moving back and forth with the ball, even though the ball would be on the complete other side of the field. Yeah. So I fell in love with him, and you know, he was kind of my role model, you know. Okay. And you know, he was a little crazy, as we all know, you know, but he was an amazing goalkeeper, and for his time, he was amazing. You know, in terms of the training, though. Yeah. I had, you know, I moved on to a club team called the Las Vegas Generals. Right. I think around age 9, like about a year after what we just talked about, where I went in goal. So 9. And the coach of the team, he invented the first soccer ball machine. Right. And it was this, you know, this massive, almost truck, you know, and it just shot out balls. And he invented it. And all of a sudden he was like, hey, let me use you as a guinea pig to see how this works. Mm-hmm. And I just got there, and he would just fire these balls, and each week he would turn it up a little harder. Yeah, I was getting thrashed and getting hit, and I had no tech, but it was just, as long as I saved it, I figured it out. So a lot of it was me figuring it out. It wasn't necessarily coaching input or detail. It was just really somebody there to support you, facilitate, practice. Repetition. I guess that's where goalkeeper coaching has really evolved now, where we have, you know, guys that know what they're talking about, played the game like we have, or the coaches that have upskilled themselves through courses. Yeah. But again, you know, I'm similar, you know, go back to my early days. It wasn't really that access to knowledge, you know, and but I guess the knowledge was there, but how to deliver the message in the correct way to actually coach it. It was more facilitation. So I think it was also very physical. Yeah, very physical, technical based. Would you agree? Yeah, back then it was just, the first taste of proper training was when I went to Europe. I mean, before that, it was just shoot on him. He'll figure it out. And I just slowly figured out, you know, how to dive. And well, we're going to talk about that a bit later in the interview, you know, where you know, again, I'm of the same thinking where, you know, back in the day, we were very technical, physical heavy, but we're going to talk about the 5 elements of development. Yeah.
You know, your technical, tactical, physical, psychological, social, and that holistic approach to developing goalkeepers, which we both agree is now hugely important. We are going to talk about the psychological side a little bit later on. But I want to go back to you just to finish off these early days. One of the kind of the trends that we've seen over the last few years in developing goalkeepers, and I wanted to ask you if you had exposure to this when you were younger. But you know, we tend to find now that goalkeepers are being advised to try other sports, play other sports, but also coaching methods now where we're bringing across certain aspects from different sports. You know, when I talk about you know, handball, volleyball, you know, we talk about looking to create flexibility and mobility in goalkeepers. Did you, as a young not necessarily goalkeeper, but as a young person, play any other sports? Obviously, I think you probably would have in the US, but any in particular that helped you develop and hone goalkeeping specific skills that might relate to the modern goalkeeper now that could help them as well?
100%. I mean, for me, I played a lot of football, American football. Not competitive, but like, you know, played a lot at school and just every day playing with your buddies. Yeah. I played a lot of basketball.
Right.
And it 100% helps. You just become, when you understand how your body works,
yeah,
you can achieve different things. For example, I made a save in England, and it's not to toot my own horn or nothing, but I know it has to do with this question.
Yeah.
So corner kick comes in, my defender goes to clear it.
Yeah.
And it hits off the top of his head and goes above the goal for a corner kick.
Right.
Now, I immediately just went into basketball mode and football mode, catching as a wide receiver. Right. And I jumped, and I swear I think this part was in line with the crossbar.
Right.
And I one-handed it down.
Yeah.
And saved it from going for a corner kick.
Kind of a scoop.
And I just scooped it down one-handed. And I was like, well, it's either a corner kick or I try this.
Yeah.
And that was never practiced. It was just an instinct from back playing, you know, in basketball, you block a shot or you do something.
Yeah.
And I remember I brought it down and I didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
And I look at my players and even the opposing team's players, and they were like, what? And then like the fans, even they were not my fans behind my goal. Mm-hmm. It took like 2 seconds and they kind of just went like, they were like impressed, you know, so it's just a total basketball,
like a double take kind of moment.
Yeah, and I know there's moments where I've made saves that were just purely instinctual and based off.
Well,
not
I was going to suggest there that, you know, when you look at that's not from the goalkeeping textbook. That's kind of an orthodox. But you know, I think again, you're probably like me now. For me, as long as it's effective and efficient in the moment,
100%.
You have to draw upon instinct as a goalkeeper to solve a problem in a moment. Then it doesn't have to be pretty or textbook or perfect. As long as it's effective and the outcome is a positive one, then that's all that matters. Would you agree?
100%. And I think this is one of my other pet peeves is I feel there's times where we overcoach to the point that we're creating robots.
Right. Agree.
A save's a save. I don't care how you save it. I've seen Shay Given make a save off his forehead. And for that moment, it was the perfect technical save.
Yeah.
Because of the situation.
Probably the most famous goalkeeper I relate to, who was that way inclined, I guess we both know, Peter Schmeichel, who kind of threw the textbook out the window. You know, when you look at him, and that's why I come back to my question earlier. You know, we know about Schmeichel's background, growing up in Denmark, playing handball. People talk about his starfish type saves. That's where it's come from, you know.
That's where I started doing it.
So again, he's adapted, you know, and he's remembered those skills. He's kept them in here. The motor memory, when he called upon it to actually use it in football, he wasn't afraid to do that. But how effective was he in moments, you know?
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. He changed the game.
Yeah,
that guy was amazing.
He did, and for me, I think that's where modern goalkeeping is going. Yes, we can kind of coach to you know, give the goalkeepers opportunity to acquire skills, but I think we also have to coach the unpredictable world, the unorthodox, the different, you know, and not be afraid for that to happen in practice. But I don't think a lot of the time you can coach it. I think it has to just happen. We have to embrace that and not be afraid of it. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. It's all about results.
Yeah.
You know, if you catch the ball between your knees every time and you never get scored on, how can you correct that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's unorthodox.
Yeah.
I'm not going to teach it.
No.
But, man, if some kid's doing it and they never get scored, now, once they get scored on, we can talk about it.
Of course.
You know? So, you know, I think it's you want to create a template of what you would like to achieve from your goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But within that, you have to allow freedom to become themselves because you know what? You can learn from that goalkeeper.
Of course.
And go, wow, this kid's doing this. This is amazing. He's doing it well. And, you know, or she, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So create the default, but give them license to experiment, to try, to see what works for them. Because we want them to have their own styles as well, don't we? We don't want robots, like you said. They have to have their own identity and style.
Yeah, and imagine, you know, so many times a player will try something and it doesn't work out and they tell him, oh, don't do that. Imagine telling Lionel Messi back when he was 8 years old and he tried to dribble one player and he failed. And a coach goes, never dribble again.
No.
I mean, you got to let them fail.
Exactly.
You know?
So that freedom to express themselves and find what works for them.